Hey guys, Alf here. Today I'm not reviewing a horror movie. I'm gonna be reviewing Turbo Kid.
You want to see something cool?
I always want to see something cool.
Turbo Kid is this fantastic independent film that came out in 2015. It's written and directed by, I'm gonna butcher these names by the way, Francois Simard, Anouk Wissel, and Johan Carl Wissel. It has this really interesting setting where it takes place in 1997, but it's like an alternate history where it's like a post-apocalyptic world. The world ended, and it takes place in this area called the Wasteland, which is never really explained where on Earth it is, but we can assume it's either the United States or Canada. So the story follows around a kid played by Monroe Chambers, who doesn't have a name in the film. They credit him as the kid, so that's what I'll refer to him as. He lives in the Wasteland, which is like a barren area that is filled with like trash and like leftover stuff from civilization in the past. And he goes around and collects it, and he's like a scavenger. That's how he survives. So he trades the stuff that he scavenged with a mobile trader, and he gets this comic book about a character named Turbo Rider that he's a fan of. And so he goes off, and while he's reading it, he meets this girl named Apple, played by Lawrence LaBeouf. And she's very childlike, like she has a very immature demeanor. She seems like a little kid, but she's not. At first, he's very standoffish about her and wants to get away from her. So, like he'll get on his bike and leave. But she eventually follows him and shows up. And when he left, he dropped this comic book. So when she shows up, she brings it back to him. And she basically tags along with him. He finds her really annoying at first and doesn't want her around. But eventually he starts warming up to her, and he starts teaching her the rules to survive in the wasteland. Eventually they start getting along really well, and they become good friends, and he makes a weapon for her, and they play tag and stuff and have a lot of fun. But then one day, this samurai looking guy shows up and takes her, and she tells him to run. So he hops on his bike and pedals off as fast as he can. The guy chases after him, but then he falls into this pit. So the samurai guy leaves. So in this pit, the kid discovers kind of some sort of aircraft, and inside is a guy in a red suit that looks a lot like the Turbo Rider suit. And then the screen turns on, and it's like a military man telling the pilot that he's Earth's last hope, which obviously we know that he failed because he's dead in this ship and the Earth is barren. So then the kid decides he's going to rescue Apple. So he puts on this suit, which also has like this power gauntlet with this electronic readout. And he discovers it shoots this beam that blows shit up when he runs into the samurai guy, and he basically blows him to bits, and continues and goes to find Apple. So I don't want to tell you too much more of the story. There's a really evil villain in the film called Zeus, and he's played by the very famous Michael Ironside. I'm sure you've seen him in tons of films, and he plays the villain really well. He's got this sidekick that wears like a skull mask and a hockey outfit. We also meet this arm wrestler guy who tags along with the kid in Apple, whose name is Frederick, and he's played by Aaron Jeffrey. We get introduced to Frederick because he's looking for his brother that Zeus took captive, and in doing so, Zeus puts him in a pit to fight against other captives, I guess. It's like a gladiator pit, which also has Apple and the kid in it, and that's how they meet while they fight off these other like gladiators, I guess you could call them, but they're not really gladiators. They're just a bunch of dudes that are getting thrown in a pit. This movie is super entertaining. I loved it. I adore it. I've watched it a couple times. It's so much fun. The characters are well written. The relationship between the kid and Apple are very charming. Frederick's like a real badass kind of guy, but he's really like a side character. He's not the main character like the kid. There's this whole like retro 80s, maybe early 90s vibe to the film, since it takes place in 1997. So people in my generation that grew up in the 80s will love this film. It has many references. It even like the outfits are in that style. The film is in the style. It's it's a lot of fun. It's very nostalgic. It's also very gory and filled with practical effects, which is another throwback to the 80s. People get their heads sewed in half and their bodies blown to bits, or they'll get cut and the blood will squirt out like in Japanese films. Like the gore is, it kind of reminds me of certain Japanese films like Machine Girl or Tokyo Gore Police. Another thing I really loved about this movie as a Nintendo fan are that noticed two Legend of Zelda references. There might be more or other Nintendo references that I haven't noticed yet. I might have to watch it a few more times for that, which is always good. But one is the little Zelda hearts, like the energy hearts and stuff. And the trader that the kid trades with that gives him the comic book, his name is Bagu, which if you know Zelda 2 Adventures of Link, there's these two brothers. One's named Error and one's name's Bagu, which is an interesting mistranslation in America because it's supposed to be Error and Bug in the Japanese version, but it got mistranslated in the US as Error and Bagu. In September of 2016, it was announced that there would be a sequel to this movie. And the day before they announced it, there was a music video that came out that's actually a prequel that tells the story of Apple right before she meets the kid, which is also very interesting and very fun video. I'm not a big fan of the song, but the video itself is like an 8-minute short film, and it's filmed just like the movie. It's great. If you like the movie, definitely check out the prequel. The band is called Le Matos, featuring Pause, and the song is called No Tomorrow. I'll leave a link below so you guys can check that out. So in conclusion, this movie is an incredible good time. I highly recommend it. Not only do I recommend it, I'm telling you that you have to watch this movie. If you're into like action, hyper action, like gore, 80s reference kinds of stuff, retro nerd stuff, you will love this movie. It's an excellent adventure. I'm so excited for the sequel. So watch it, man. Give it a shot. Comment below and tell me what you think about the film. And I'll see you guys next time.